How's it going, y'all? Kevin Kuhn here from Athlete Factors. This is the Athlete Factors podcast, and I'm here with an old friend, Juan Carrillo. How we doing, Juan?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you, man?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So let's dive right into it, man. So we met, probably I think it was 2011. I just moved to Indianapolis to work with the Indiana Invaders Professional Running Club, and you were one of the athletes on the team.
I was an 800-meter athlete, 800, 1500, so middle distance. That was my concentration. I actually got there in 2009, so 2 years before you got there. And
Gotcha.
um, but yeah, those were the glory days back in the day.
So long ago now.
Now I cannot even run the easy runs with my guys that I coach. That's how out of shape you get, and old too.
It catches up with you, man, and you just can't move like you used to.
You can move. I learned that the hard way, that my stride changed completely, my
Mm-hmm.
form, and
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. So but it's fun to watch my guys, get better. When they come in as freshmen and when they leave as seniors, and see how much they improve over 4 years.
For sure. So you coach at Bowling Green?
Bowling Green State University. That's in Ohio. Correct.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's my old stomping grounds, Ohio. That's where I'm from.
Yep. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your personal background, where you're from, where you grew up, what got you into running, and yeah, just your whole life story.
Yeah, so I was actually born in Mexico, in central Mexico. Uh, Came to the U.S. when I was 13 years old. I didn't speak a word of English at that time, so everything was new. It was shocking to come to a new country, new language, new school, um, and destiny brought me to join the track team at the high school level, and. Uh, I think I had it from the beginning where uh, uh, I didn't like it that much, but I was good at it, and I just kept doing it because people told me I was good at running.
Hmm.
But I think over the years, I began to have a love and a passion for the sport, which that's crazy how things work. Was something that you didn't like at one point. Now it's like your life. Um,
It's funny how that happens.
yeah, and competed in high school, went to college at Lewis University, which is uh, just a small division 2 school outside of Chicago.
Mm.
And then um, from Lewis, decided to do the post collegiate career, running career. And that's what led me to Indianapolis when we met in 2011.
Mhm.
And I represented Team Mexico at one point in my career, the Indiana Invaders, which they're more like a sponsor club, and retired, you can say, from competitive track and field in 2012, after the Olympic trials for Team Mexico, and uh, got a job, you know, and then a year, 2 years later, realized that that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Mm.
My major in college was business management, um, and realized that I wanted to be a coach. I miss the sport a lot, so much that the only way you can get back to it is actually, in my case, was by coaching. So
Mhm.
started coaching at Robert Morris University in Chicago for 2 years. Then uh, uh, left a paying job to become a volunteer at Northern Illinois University.
Mm.
Because I don't know if you guys don't know, but to get to the Division 1 level, you had to volunteer. Uh,
Mhm.
if you ask some of the best coaches in the U.S., at one point they had to volunteer also. So NIU 2 years volunteering paid off because it brought me here to Bowling Green to has the men's cross country coach at Bowling Green, and I'm also an assistant coach for the women's program
Mm.
during the track season. So this is my 7th year now coaching at the collegiate level, and
Wow,
this is my 5th year at Division One. Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah.
So what were the steps like to get that first coaching job? Like were you sending out resumes all over, or were you trying to stay pretty targeted in around that Chicago area?
For me, uh, and I think it's with anything is who you know.
Mm,
One of my high school friends, a good friend of mine, Paul Sabala, he was a head coach at Robert Morris, and he was one of the ones that kept asking me, "Hey, you should coach. You should give it a try." And finally gave it a shot, and he brought me as an assistant coach. So I actually didn't have to interview for the job. He just offered me the job
mm,
because I brought in the middle distance experience from being an athlete,
for
and
sure.
he was more of a distance coach at that time, so
Mm,
he needed someone that will come in with some middle distance experience. That's how I started. And as you try to move up in this field of college coaching, it's very competitive. When a job opens up, there are 200, 300 coaches applying for the same job. So
yeah.
it's very competitive, and it's all who you know. I've I learned that over the years.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, just networking. I try to network as much as possible, and make connections, and foster those relationships with people that I meet. So
For sure.
yeah,
That's awesome. So, uh, is coaching your dream job now? Now that you've been doing it for a while, like, is this all you want to do?
absolutely. I mean, I just yeah, I cannot see myself doing anything else
Yeah,
besides coaching. It's uh, uh, again, like I tried the corporate jobs. After I retired from track and field in 2012, and
hmm,
it was something was missing in life. Where uh, uh, I didn't have the passion to do those type of jobs, and I feel like with coaching, it's almost like you don't work. It doesn't feel like a job.
hmm,
um, I think that's the best part of it. Obviously, there's a lot. I'm not saying it's an easy job, but it's definitely not something as stressful as I see some people that might make a lot of money, but they're always stressed out, and they're
hmm.
always complaining about stuff, and uh, I wake up Monday morning at 6 a.m. to go to practice, and with a smile on my face, and that's, to me, that's success, in life.
Oh
When
yeah,
when when you get to say you can do that, uh, regardless of how much you get paid. But as I love what I do. Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, when you're part of a team, like you said, you started running in like high school, like being part of a team, like that community, that camaraderie, that can become such a huge part of your life. And as soon as you don't have that, it does feel like something's missing.
Exactly. Again, 2012, after the Olympic trials, it was, uh, you know, I almost wanted to be done at that time, because I think I got to a point where I was getting a little burned out from, I have been running since I was 15 years old,
Hmm.
so that was a lot of years competing and running, training, and you're done, and uh, you're like any other person, right? Just living life almost too much to the fullest, and it was a lot of fun, but it got to a point where I had to ask myself, like who am I, like
Hmm.
because track and field was such a big part of my life that when I didn't have that, something was missing, and and I feel like I had to find who I was, without the sport, without track and field.
Hmm.
And I actually coaching kind of brought me back to it, helped me find that, my identity.
For
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, that's such a. If you don't know who you are, then like how are you going to be happy with what you're doing, right?
exactly.
So
And you always see those professional athletes, when making when they announce their retirement. Obviously, I wasn't making that much money, or I was not like that much of a professional athlete, but you can relate to, in a way, I could relate to how they felt when they,
Hmm.
this is it, like there's no more, like um technically you retire because you were too old to play or compete at the highest level,
Hmm.
because of age, obviously. And so yeah, it was definitely a tough experience, but it's just like anything in life, you learn and you move on.
Yeah, and you had so much experience, like now you get to share that with with the next generation of runners. So it's not going to waste. You get to recycle that quality into your athletes, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was, I tell my guys all the time, my cross country guys, live in the present, live right now, what we're trying to accomplish right now. Don't think about the things you want to do your senior year, or after college. Sometimes I get kids that, start talking to me about, hey, would you coach me after college? I want to try to make the Olympics or something. Just crazy dreams, which I
Hmm.
love. I like
Hmm.
crazy. I
Hmm.
like when they think crazy like that. But at the same time, you had to, bring these kids, let them know that, hey, just live right now, enjoy the present, because there's a very good chance that after your running career, your college career ends, you're not gonna sign a shoe contract. The only thing you're gonna have is the college degree, and you're gonna get a job. And when you realize there's no more trips, with the team to cross country meets. That's when it's gonna hit you. And so I remind them, whenever I can, just enjoy what you're doing right now.
Hmm. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity because
Exactly.
yeah, as soon as you don't have it, you miss it. Like I totally remember that. Like there were times where I hated being on the bus. I'm like, I don't want to get on this bus again. Like we'd have these soggy Subway sandwiches. Like that's what we had to eat on our way to meet sometimes. Like there's times where it's just like, ugh, I don't want to do this anymore. And now I'm like, man, I wish, just to go back and hang out with all my friends. Like we didn't have a, care in the world. Like we were just enjoying life in the moment. And it's little things like that that
Hmm.
you can't relive that. So,
Exactly.
so,
Yeah, I hear you.
but so what's your like general coaching philosophy? Like what do you consider your primary role or focus um, coaching your athletes?
Well, I truly believe, like, my main job as a coach is, well, at least at that collegiate level, which where I coach. Uh, my main job is to help the guys that I coach, to help them be the best they can be, both academically and athletically. Right. That's what we college coaches. We coach student athletes.
Hmm.
That's I really believe that's my main goal. Is if I can help these kids every year, from the freshman year to the senior year, uh, to be the best they can be, then I did my job. Whether they improve 2 seconds or 1 minute from their high school times to the end of their college careers, that's, as long as they're better. And more than anything, as long as I know that I mentor them uh, to be productive individuals in society after college, then I feel like I did my job. In terms of training, I mean, it just depends. It just depends what events you coach. Just like the middle distance compared to a 10 kilometers, it's gonna be a different training philosophy.
Hmm.
But some things, some things that don't change regardless of the event that I coach is uh, mainly just creating consistency through training.
Mm.
So if I can keep my guys healthy for a full year, uh, that's gonna pay big dividends by the time, if when freshman year, if I can keep him healthy for a whole year, but the sophomore year they're gonna have a bigger year, and
Hmm.
so on, junior, senior year. So just creating consistency That's huge. For me, that's part of my philosophy. What I try to focus. Uh, just building relationships with them. You got the people that you coach. They have to be able to trust you, right?
Mm,
Uh, I can only push these kids as much as they trust me. Like, because what if I'm trying to push them way too hard, but there's no trust? What makes me think they're gonna go to a race and run it, as hard as
mm,
they can?
mm,
So it's sometimes it's not just about taking times in a workout, taking their splits. It's really about building relationships with these kids, and uh, maybe hopefully one day when they get married, they invite me to their wedding or something like that. So
mm.
um, yeah, so that's what I try to focus on with coaching.
Gotcha. So, do you kind of have a specialty within the middle distances that you really like to coach, or is it just anything in that realm? Like you love it all. Like, do you have that one race where you're like, yes, this is
Day 100.
the 800, the
Yeah,
two lap tango.
I feel like the 800, the 1500. I feel like I can coach those two events with my eyes closed. Like I don't have to try too hard to coach them.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like, uh, I mean, because I can coach anywhere from 800 meters to a marathon. But I feel like when I do personal coaching on the side also, like
Mm-hmm.
marathoners,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like the training that for me to come up with workouts for the marathon, sometimes I had to do a little more research, maybe
Mm-hmm.
read more books,
Mm-hmm.
just teach myself a little better for those
Mm-hmm.
events. But with the 800, 1500, I raced those events my whole career, the whole career,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, but I would say the 800, that's my favorite event. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was my favorite in high school, and
2 laps, you're done.
exactly,
Yeah.
it's that simple. It's that easy. You just
Yeah.
just run one lap really fast, and then do it again.
Yeah, it's an extended sprint. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like if you ask the 400 athlete to move up to the eighth, they don't want to do that.
No.
Or me as a coach, if I try to move a 400 guy to an 800, they're hesitant. They question it. Uh, and if you ask a 1500 athlete to move down to the 800, same thing. Uh, so that's why, you know, I always think that the pure 800 athletes, those are the best 800 athletes.
Mhm.
Versus when you try to move someone from a 400 or bring somebody down from a 1500,
Mhm.
uh, sometimes it doesn't work. So,
Yeah.
so some of the best 800 athletes in the world in history have that's all they've done, just 800 meters, and
Yeah.
they're successful because they love that event.
Mhm. Yeah. There's I think that's really interesting and unique that yeah, the idea is like, oh, well, you're good at the 400, but maybe you're not like the best at the 400. So let's just throw some more training volume at you and you'll be great at the 800s. Like it doesn't always work that way.
That's
Like
an yep. Yeah. It's
so
hard. It's hard to convince those kids, to move up to the eight. Uh, but sometimes as a coach, you have. It's not like you're forcing them, but you know, at the end of the day, you're kind of in charge of the team, and
mhm.
if and again, that's when building relationships with these kids pays off, because if they trust you and you tell them, you're gonna be a great 800 athlete, let's move up to the eight, they're gonna believe you and they're gonna do that for you.
Mhm.
But if they don't trust you, it's gonna be hard to convince them.
For sure. Yeah, like just telling somebody, "Hey, you should do this event. You'd be good at it." Like, well, what do you know? You don't know me. Like, well, but
Exactly.
if you have that relationship, then they're like, "Oh, okay, well, all right, I'll give it a try." And if they buy in and they know that you're committed to seeing them do their absolute best,
Hmm.
then they're probably going to do pretty well. So, um, let's see. So, what are some things that you do personally to make yourself as effective as possible as a coach?
You know, reading books, doing some research about, what are some things that other successful coaches are doing, and
Mm-hmm.
not so much in terms of what workouts are they doing,
Mm-hmm.
but more so, uh, what's the thinking behind what they do,
Mm-hmm.
uh, why they do certain workouts at x time of the season of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I just trying to learn as much as I can. I actually had the chance to meet Joe Vigil. He's arguably one of the best middle distance track coaches in the U.S. history.
Oh yeah.
He coached at Adam State for so many years. Won NCAA titles. I don't know how many he won. That it's that
Tons.
many. It's that
Yeah.
many. But I actually met the guy, in Chicago for a private event, and I had a 20-minute conversation with him and just,
Wow.
pick his brain as much as I could. That, took advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah.
And that was one of, I asked him the question, like, what advice would you give a young coach, like, like me,
Mm-hmm.
starting to coach? And he said, just learn as much as you can, like never stop learning, even when you make it to the top, like keep learning,
Mm-hmm.
keep doing things, that are going to make you a better coach, and for me also, I go to coaches conventions. So at the collegiate level, we have a coaches convention every year in December, where uh, it's a chance to go and meet coaches there, and sometimes uh, you sit down with them and just start having conversations about training. What kind of things do they do? You compare it to what you do with your team, and uh, so yeah, reading, networking,
Mm-hmm.
you know, getting advice from my mentors. I have um, I have the privilege to have one of my mentors. His name is Gary Wilson. Um, he coached at University of Minnesota for so many years. He won Big Ten titles back in the day. Um, and it's nice to have that type of mentor where, if I have a question, if I'm questioning something in my training, I can always ask this guy, and
Mm-hmm.
he'll pick up his phone and talk to me. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially for a guy like him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just try to learn as much as I can. Never stop learning.
Yeah. That's good advice for everybody. Like as soon as you think you know enough, like you're probably gonna get beat. Like.
Yeah, you became complacent, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, we don't do the same thing every year in training. We try to keep the same phases, like phase one, phase two, phase three, and what am I trying to accomplish during each phase of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but we don't do the exact same workouts,
Mm-hmm.
every year. So I try to change things, because if we do the same workouts, then we're gonna run the same as the year before. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you gotta make some changes, and be able to adapt, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about the human body is it's so good at adapting, but
Exactly.
but if you are always just like introducing the same type of stress or the exact same stressor, it's like I'm already good at this. Why would I need to adapt? Like you
Yep. It's
you need consistency, but you also need variety. Like so I think that's that's a really good way of kind of looking at it from a big picture. Like the end result of what you're looking for is still the same. Like the goal of the phase is still the same, but the way you get there, like you've got to have that variety. So I love that.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
Sweet. So what do you see kind of on a day-to-day basis as far as like what's what are the most important things that you're focusing on day to day?
Uh, just doing everything that we have scheduled for the day, on a daily basis, doing recovery modalities. We gotta
Mm,
be able to recover every day. uh, so uh, every day, everything we do has a purpose. Whether it's if it's an easy run, the purpose of the run is to run easy.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's a recovery run, which the day after a hard workout, uh, that's the purpose of the day is to recover. Then that's gonna be my main focus, to make sure they're not overrunning an easy run, because
Mm-hmm.
then they're not recovering. Therefore, there's no training adaptations taking place if they're not recovering.
Mm-hmm.
So just paying a lot of attention to those details. Like college kids, they don't see it that way. They want to go hard all the time. They want to
Mm-hmm.
run fast all the time. They think the faster they run every day, the better they're gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
So as a coach, you had to educate them that that's not how it works. The really elite Division 1 programs, that's what they do. They focus on a daily basis on those little details,
Mm-hmm.
recovering, run easy when you have to run easy, and run hard when you have to run hard. And like we were talking about, your body adapts. You stress them with something, and it's gonna adapt eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, but again, the recovery piece is huge at this level, or just in any level. Is Yeah. So that's what I try to focus on a daily basis. Make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do for that specific day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like when you see a movie like Without Limits, or when you hear about Steve Prefontaine, when you hear about these guys who we really didn't know what their day-to-day training was like. We only heard about the crazy workouts that they would do.
Hmm.
We only heard about the really, really hard stuff. And it's like, oh, well, they must have been doing that every day, and that's how they got better. Like, well, no, probably not. Like, they're either they were so far on one end of the spectrum where they were just genetic freaks, and it didn't matter how they were training, they were going to be good, or more likely, their training was programmed correctly and they had good coaches who were making sure that they weren't overtraining and that they were taking time off when they needed to or reducing that stress when they needed to so that they could adapt. And I think thankfully that's changing, that whole idea that you've got to go hard every day. um, you're gonna burn out. You're not gonna get faster. You're gonna get injured, and then you're gonna not enjoy the sport. So it's just like everything else in life. There's a time and a place for it, and you know you gotta
It,
approach it correctly. So.
yeah, I mean, and the scary part is that there are actually coaches out there who believe the more they do, the faster they run every day, the better. Like, that's
Mm,
crazy to think that there are some coaches out there who think that. And again, yeah, but when their athletes get hurt, then uh, who is to blame for that? Uh, so so yeah, it's you gotta be pay attention to all those little details as a coach.
mhm. Yeah, and the emphasis on recovery, like I consider that, like that's 50% of the equation. Like you apply the stress, and then you either reduce or you remove the stress, and that's how you get the adaptation. And there's definitely times in a season where you're applying more stress and focusing a little less on the recovery aspect, just because there's times where you may have to accumulate a lot of volume. Like your goal
Hmm.
is just, we've got to get miles. But if you're trying to do that at the end of the season, like, sorry, you're probably not going to end up, doing the things that you want to when it comes to your time on the clock and your place at the finish. So,
Yeah,
um,
I mean, there are some things like like threshold workouts.
mm-hmm,
You you can't really overtrain with tempo work, threshold workouts. Um, uh, so if that's what you got to do for 1 year, just doing tempo runs, threshold workouts, you're gonna get very strong, and you're gonna build a lot of endurance that way.
mm-hmm,
The tricky part comes with the whenever you start doing a lot of anaerobic work, like
mm-hmm,
a lot of speed work. So
mm-hmm,
there's every athlete has X amount of speed workouts they can only do in one season, and if you start overdoing those more than you're supposed to, then that's when, yeah, I feel like that's when you burn out. Uh, it happens mostly when you burn out from doing a lot of anaerobic uh, type of work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you're redlining your engine in a car. Like it's gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna burn it up, right? So I totally agree with that. I think um, if you're doing too much training volume, I think that's where you're probably gonna get more overuse injury. But
Exactly.
if you're doing too much, uh, like you said, anaerobic work or like speed work, that's where you're gonna get like just your nervous system's going to get tapped out. You're not going to feel fresh, and you're going to get more burned out. I think you get more frustrated from doing too much speed work, but you get more overuse injury from just doing too much volume. And it's finding that marriage of what's the perfect amount for both for the individual athlete. So
But I mean, a good example, like just to give something that I do throughout the whole year, we do speed development type of workouts every Monday,
mm-hmm.
and but by speed development I mean like 4x150s and mile pace or mile effort. I don't even time them. They just gotta be based on effort.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Maybe some accelerations, uh, but it's everything is with a lot of recovery where we're just reminding our the body that you are that you have that speed, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because what happens is if you I feel like a lot of times coaches they do all this tempo work, all this threshold work throughout the season, endurance, strength endurance work, um, and then when a week or 2 weeks before the championship comes, you know, they start doing speed work, and I'm like, and I think about how like, well, that's how your athletes are gonna pull a hamstring because they've never run fast the whole season. Are you trying to make it run fast a week before a championship?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I try to focus on doing speed work, doing some type of speed, short intervals with a lot of recovery uh, throughout the year, uh, where you know we start with the speed development workouts like 4x150s, and you know then they go out and do an easy run, and that's on Mondays.
Mm-hmm.
So we do that the whole season. So when it's time to do more speed work, more real speed work, uh, 4 or 5 weeks before the conference championships, now these kids are used to running fast, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to worry about them uh, aggravating Achilles tendons or you know, hamstrings, or you know, all those muscles that you have to use when you got to sprint or run faster.
Yeah, no, I think it's so much easier to maintain it. And then for a lot of these guys who shift from cross country to like the shorter events or the shorter middle distance events, like indoor track and then outdoor track, like there's so much less transition because they're already doing a little bit of that effort pace, that mile effort pace, which I think is great. Like I always in college, I ran my fastest when we were doing 150s or 200s
Mm-hmm.
around my mile pace, even though we're training for 8K or 10K. So at the end of the day, even if you're racing 10K, it may come down to a sprint at the end,
It
and
does. Yeah.
it's still a race, right? So you don't want to get to that point where every single place matters and all your athletes are like slow, slow
Uh-huh.
down the last stretch because everybody else is just they've got some speed and they've been maintaining it or they've been working on it consistently. So, yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it, and it's way easier to maintain than it is to try to catch up right at the end of the season. So, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, you also got to keep in mind that speed, speed work or speed development work can mean different things for different athletes.
Mm,
For the 10K athlete, you know, for the cross country 8K 10K type, uh, a speed development workout is gonna be, you know, four by 150s at mile effort, you know. versus my 800 athletes, 1500 athletes. Their speed work is gonna mean uh, maybe 2 to 3 by 150s, but a 400 effort. Uh,
Mm,
so that you see what I'm saying. So
hmm.
is speed is gonna mean different things for depending on which profile of athlete you are. You know.
Gotcha. So when you're developing like your training program, let's say you're setting up everything for your first or second phase, third phase, doesn't matter. You're developing that. Do you have like individual athletes in mind, or do you have like the individual uh, racing profile? Like, so for my 800 runners, they're going to be doing this type of workout. My 5K runners, they're going to be doing this, and then my true cross country 10K marathon type runners, they're going to be doing this type of setup? Or is it just kind of like everybody's doing relatively the same thing and you adjust kind of on the fly?
No, everything is planned. Uh, we try to do the same workouts as much as possible. You know, to create a team environment. You know, like you're
Mm-hmm.
part of a team. Uh, has for the middle distance athlete has it gets has it gets closer towards late November, December. I would say November, December. Then we start getting more specific middle distance workouts, where they're probably not gonna be doing the workouts that a cross country athlete is doing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But early in the season, like for example, phase one, it's gonna be very similar whether you're an 800 guy or a 10K guy, because
Mm-hmm.
all you're doing is just building mileage, building volume,
Mm-hmm.
getting stronger, building endurance. So we do the same workouts, just uh, at a different intensity and different volume. So for example, if my cross country guys have to do 6 by 1 mile, then my middle distance guys are gonna be doing 4 by 1 mile instead. So
Gotcha.
we just cut it shorter.
Mm-hmm.
For the sometimes we even just cut it to 1 kilometers for the middle distance kids
Mm-hmm.
that might not be able to handle a full mile that many times.
Yeah.
So it's more about it's for me it's more about making sure that what I give my athletes, they're gonna be able to finish it, uh, and if I can create this consistency in doing workouts, uh, for a long period of time, it creates confidence. You know, the more
Mm-hmm.
confident you are because you've been doing so much more training, then confidence is everything at this level.
I,
Uh,
to-
so
I totally agree with that. Like, it's way better to be able to check off that you finished a workout, even if it was maybe well, I mean, it's you're right. It's just it's better to be able to complete it than it is to be like, oh, man, I had to stop early today. Yeah, I was running faster than than I ever have, and I'm in really good shape, but I just couldn't finish today. If you get a lot of those back to back, that's that's gotta be a little hit to the ego. And when you show up
mentally,
on on race day, that's you're probably gonna be like, man, I it's gonna be in the back of your mind. Man, all
but
those
that's
workouts I didn't finish.
yeah, and I think as a coach, that's when like you have to know your athletes. You know exactly, uh, you know what they're capable of, and even when it comes to racing, I always tell my guys, you I'm not asking you to do something out of this world today in this race. Just do what you're capable of. Just do what you've been doing in workouts, and that just eases up the nerves. Before a race
Hmm.
when they hear that, hey, all I gotta do is just run what I'm capable of today, and uh, I got it. I got this. So yeah, that's what I focus on when it comes to planning training. Uh, Obviously, every phase is different. You're trying to build more endurance strength early in the season, or actually you do a strength endurance for a cross country season, the whole season, because we're endurance athletes.
Hmm.
So you don't want to abandon that part of training. The only thing that changes is more. Uh, there's mid October to early November. Uh, we start doing more sub race space work,
Hmm.
BO2 max type of workouts. Yeah.
Hmm. Gotcha. So, what are uh, what are some things that you're currently reading or learning right now?
You know, I was at the coaches convention last year, and one of the speakers, he's got a book, and it's called "Lead for God's Sake." So it's a book about leadership. You know, it's mainly for coaches, for a coach. Oh, and you know, I think it's just for anybody, like a parent, a teacher, uh, personal trainer. Uh, it just it's more about just finding who you are as a coach, as a leader,
Mm-hmm.
and how to lead people to to get what you want to accomplish. Pretty much,
Mm.
it's a great book. I love it. Uh, I'm looking for something new, so we'll see what I can find. Yeah,
See what catches your eye.
yeah, yeah. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm always looking for for good stuff to read, so I'll check that out. Um, do you prefer uh, like physical books, or do you like audiobooks? Do you like podcasts? Like, what's your primary form of ingesting information?
I think it just depends. Like if I'm in my office or at home, I like the physical book. You know, like I'm still old school. Like as far as technology, I like I like to buy the book and make notes in it, write stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when if I'm going recruiting on a weekend, if I'm gonna be on the road for 3 4 hours, then like a podcast or an audiobook is perfect because then I can just listen to it and actually uh, making recurring calls at that time too.
Mm-hmm.
The more work I can get in those 4 hours of a road trip, the better for me.
For sure.
So it just depends, where I am, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So, uh, what advice would you give for, let's say, a high school athlete who, um, they don't know what the recruiting process is like? So how does somebody like reach out to a college coach for a program that they're interested in? Like, what's your advice to somebody who wants to compete in college?
Um, Well, like nowadays, every college, every university is gonna have an athletics website. I would recommend to go to their website of that school they're interested in. Go to the sports page, and most schools are gonna have uh, a section where you can submit a recruiting questionnaire. That's how we get recruits information in our system,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we start the recruiting process. But sometimes, I get emails from recruits that just write me a direct email to me
Mm-hmm.
saying they're interested. Uh, they talk about the training, like how many miles they run a week, what high school they compete. Uh, so there's a few different ways, but yeah, just find out what are the standards to walk on the team
Mm-hmm.
also, just to save their time, and because if they don't have those standards, it's going to be hard for the college coaches uh, to uh, to start the recruiting process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking more for the division 1 at the division 1 level.
Mm-hmm.
There every division 1 program is going to have a walk-on standard, or like a scholar. What kind of times do you need to be considered for a scholarship?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say probably do the research, and see what schools uh, you might have those times to be a walk-on or a scholarship athlete. Um, and if not, then if sometimes I I like getting those emails from those kids who are passionate, and they just want a chance, they just want an opportunity. They
Mm-hmm.
might not have the times, but they're close to it. But I can sense by the way they write how mature they are, if they're good teammates,
Mm-hmm.
if they're passionate, if they're willing to work hard. And sometimes those are the best kids to coach and to recruit, because you know they might not show their full potential at the high school level.
Hmm.
Uh, but if my instinct tells me that I can coach them and make it better, I'm I will reply and respond and try to get those kids. Yeah.
Awesome. So this has been so great, man. So how can somebody reach out to you? Let's say they want to ask you a question, or they want to run something by you, or they just want to follow you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I the only social media that I have is Instagram and Facebook. I would say I would say probably Instagram would be the best one. My username is Juanfer345, so I spell it. It's JUANFER345. So that's my username at Instagram. And then Facebook is just my name, Juan Carrillo. Um, I mean, I don't know if I can give email or is that fine too? Or
That's fine. I've had other guests do it. So I don't post the email, but in the description I include like the Instagram and stuff like that, so it's easy for people to find. But if you want to throw your email out there, it's completely up to you.
I mean, I think Instagram for sure, for sure they'll be able to find me. And yeah, if somebody has a question or wants to run some ideas, like I said, I've always tried to learn from other people too. And
Hmm.
if people want to learn from me, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think one of the most uh, beneficial ways to make sure that you understand the concept is to be able to explain it to somebody else. And so
Exactly.
that's like, I love when people ask me questions because most of the time I'm not like, "Ah, I'm too busy or I'm too tired." Like, I'm like, all right, here's my opportunity to prove that I actually do understand this and be able to explain it in a way that anybody can understand it. Um, I feel like that helps keep me sharp. So it's
Yeah,
good stuff.
I hear
So
you.
so what's a parting piece of advice you have for anybody listening right now?
A piece of advice. Oh man. I would say just, just follow your passion, follow what if there's something you're passionate about, um, go for it. I mean, if you're asking me, I'm an idealist, that's how I think. Uh, whatever makes you happy, what moves you, find what moves you and follow it. Uh, go 100% at it and don't look back. Because the minute
Mm,
you start questioning, the minute you if you only put in 50% into it, and that's what you're gonna get 50%. So um, you know, buy in 100% and don't look back. Yeah,
I
but
love it.
just
Yeah.
follow your passion.
There's too many people out there doing jobs that they hate. Like, find something you love. Like, I, I
And
tell people, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was gonna say, and it's easy to say, like find something to do that you love. And for some people that might not come later in their lives.
Mm,
For me, coaching didn't come until I was 30 years old. Actually, I was
mm,
30 when I started coaching.
wow.
Versus in coaching world, for my
You're,
age,
you're late, man.
yeah, yeah, because most coaches start coaching, right after college,
Hmm.
which is what you're 22 after college.
Hmm.
So when I started coaching, people my age, they already had like like 7, 8 years of experience ahead of me. So, but that's everyone is gonna be different. What they end up doing for the rest of their lives, and when you find it, just don't let it go. Just keep at it.
Awesome. Well, Juan, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. I know everybody who's watching or listening has enjoyed it and has learned something, and I can't wait to have you on again in the future to ask you more questions and talk more stuff and reminisce about old times in Indianapolis. And
The
I
good
remember,
times.
yeah, man, I remember quite a few times uh, meeting up with you to have a little tequila and mezcal at the restaurant you were working at,
Yeah,
and yeah,
those
going all over Indianapolis. What was What was that one place we'd go to in Broad Ripple every once in a while, do some salsa dancing?
Oh, the Jazz Kitchen. The
Yeah.
Jazz Kitchen. Yeah,
Yeah.
Thursday nights. That was Thursday nights. I still remember.
Yeah, man. I have such good memories hanging out with you and all the other guys. Um, I really appreciate it, even though I was not, an athlete on the team, but I was basically the same age as you guys, and I was, there basically just to help out and, um, mostly rehab Nate, but anyone else that wanted to work on their strength and conditioning, and like you and Ricky and a couple other guys were like, yeah, like if it's gonna help, let's do it. So I really appreciated you guys kind of, allowing me to be part of the team. It was a really, really good experience for me, and I loved my time in Indianapolis. So
Me too, man. No, those were good times. I definitely enjoy those times we hang out and hopefully soon we get to meet up sometime and catch up.
for sure, for sure. Well, this has been great. Um, Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. Go and follow Juan right now, and if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to him. And stay tuned for next week's episode. Thanks, y'all.